Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you're all well. You amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. It's Thursday. It's Thirsty Thursday still, and you're still looking absolutely amazing. I am busy. I'm busy because of, obviously, you guys who have been around the channel for a bit, you know I like changing stuff. And we're going away soon. We're going to Spain for a bit. And I've shut down, dismantled the studio because I want to change a few things. I'll show a few of you some of the things that are coming up in a few days' time as I'm changing some of the equipment. And for those of you who are aspiring creators, you may get a few tips. Anyway, what we talked about, someone reached out to me and they said, look, you've got to check out this video. I get a lot of people who do that. They say, check this out. Check it out. You must check it out. And it was a video actually by Mr. Ballin. He did it a couple of years ago. It's not a new one. But it had elements that would seem very similar to, or in this person's, their thoughts and feelings were that it sort of had similarities to the Idaho 4 case. And there are, and we'll touch on them shortly. But look, so who are we talking about? We're actually talking about the killer who inspired the film Scream. Now, some of you may have been a fan. You may not know what I'm talking about, but Scream was a film that a few years ago, it took, I think I was 18 when this came out. I believe I was 18. I remember it was when I had my first tattoo done. We had the tattoos done, then we went across to the cinema and we watched it. And it was a good film. Now, I'm not so sure about the ones that followed afterwards, but the original Scream film, what an absolute classic. And who is the killer who inspired that film, I hear you say, because some of you may know, some of you may not know. But the killer was, in fact, Danny Rowling. Now, Danny Rowling, also known as a Gainsborough Ripper, was a killer who would go on to kill, I believe it was five victims in the end on the university, around the university campus, Florida University campus. And look, we hear people talk about Bryan Kohberger and whether Bryan Kohberger could have done this crime, whether he couldn't have done this crime. They look at Bryan and some people just say, he's got dodgy eyes, look at him, he's evil. Some people look at him and think, he don't look like he could punch his way out of a wet paper bag. But look, Danny Rowling, he didn't look like a killer. He didn't look like a killer at all. In fact, when he was wearing a suit in court, sometimes he just looked like a meek and mild man. Could be anybody's neighbour. Don't look like someone you could be afraid of. Don't look like someone who could murder people. But in fact, he would go on to do some of the most gruesome killings that America certainly has ever seen. Now, when we talk about Bryan Kohberger, we hear some people say, well, he went round to a Warwi Park because Ted Bundy had connections to a Warwi Park. Some people connect him to Ted Bundy. Said, well, not connect him to, but, compare the two. Jeffrey Dahmer, perhaps. And these are killers who are well known. Danny Rowling, not so much. Not everyone will have heard of Danny Rowling. They wouldn't have heard that he went into people's homes and he would do stuff both before the murder and after the murder that is absolutely horrendous. He would remove parts of the bodies of these people to keep as tokens of his time with them. He would even leave parts of the body. I'm trying to do this in a way that you two won't strike me down with furious anger. But yeah, he would remove pieces of the bodies and prop them up on places like on shelves or on beds and stuff like that. This was a gruesome man. So look, when I talk about Bryan Kohberger, and I say to myself, look, I need to see more evidence, but I'm not naive enough to believe that Bryan Kohberger just simply didn't have the capability to do such a thing, is because of people just like Danny Rowling. Because Danny Rowling, like I say, he looked like a normal person. The downside is Danny Rowling's background, the things that happened to him in the past, made up for complexities that would result in the end product. And that is the psychopath that was Danny Rowling. And we hear about the Idaho 4 case. We hear about it and we hear them, and this is the prosecution saying about how complex and complicated this case is. And that is one of the things that has always stuck out to me, because I think to myself, well, it's not really that complicated, is it? Not from my perspective, if you've got all your ducks in a row. Because ultimately, somebody had DNA at the crime scene and the car was caught on camera outside the house. That's what we are led to believe is almost like the prosecution's ace in the hole. But they talk about the complexities of it. And I wonder whether they are going to dig deep into Bryan Kohberger's past. Because it was in fact the digging deep into the past of Danny Rowling that would paint this picture as to how he became the monster that he was. The fact that Danny's father was a cop who simply didn't want children. And he made sure that Danny knew that he was indeed unwanted. Now, Danny would go on to be affected by this. And there would be other things that would lead to a break, if you like. There was other deaths. He would go on. I think he killed someone in a car accident, and that would obviously spark something inside him. He would be involved in other more petty crimes as well. He would seemingly go to try and get involved in stuff that would pull him away from it, but it was a tug of war battle. He himself got involved in narcotics, taking acid, they say, around 100 times. And when you've got a fragile mind, taking acid probably isn't going to help. But the point of this is to say, look, we've said it before, there isn't a specific look for a specific kind of person. Someone can look nice and be an arsehole. They can be pretty and gorgeous, but be dark and dark inside. And somebody can look like someone who you just wouldn't want to hang about with, and they can be the nicest person. Somebody can look normal, they can look sexy, but they can hold deep dark secrets and in fact be absolute psychos, like we've seen with Ted Bundy. I'm not saying Ted Bundy was a sexy man. I'm not into men, but there's a lot of women out there who would find him attractive, charismatic, until he cuts off their head and puts it in his car and rides around with it. So look, Bryan Kohberger, did he do it? Didn't he do it? Who knows? But what I do know is that there is capability in many, many people who don't outwardly project it, that they are capable, I'll get there in a minute, of doing heinous things. So that is why, even though my stance on the Idaho 4 case is that I need to see more evidence, I need to see more, I'm not ready to convict him and have him burnt at the stake, I do have a reservation in the back of my mind that says, look, he could have done it. He could be the person who did the crime. What do you think? Did you know Danny Rowling actually inspired the film Scream? Let me know down below if you did or if you didn't. Have you heard of the Danny Rowling murders? If you'd like me to do more of a deep dive on it, perhaps do a live together and go over the heinous crimes and exactly what this guy did, let me know down in the comments and I'll do it in a few days' time. But until then, I'll catch you in the next one.